I wanted to introduce to you guys Coach Bronson. Hi, Coach.
Hey, how are you today, Emily? Glad
Good.
to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I am so glad that you reached out to me for us to have this conversation. And I think, I really didn't know that we would have much in common because, I researched a little bit of your stuff and I was
Yeah.
like, I don't really know that we would have much to talk about. And then literally for like the 5 minutes just before we hit record, we almost had to stop talking and go to hit record because we have so much to talk about.
Yeah. That's what it's
Um,
like. There's so many people in this space that are doing good things, and I think just the idea of commiserating or pairing up with someone who's putting themselves out there because I don't think people realize how much it's kind of a risk to be doing what we're doing, like putting our lives out there, putting this stuff out there, opening ourselves up for criticism and all of the things that are going. So being able to talk to someone else who's kind of dealing with and going through the same things that you're going through is fun, regardless, in the process of trying to help other people get better. So I think there's no matter what, even if we were completely different in every aspect, the fact that we're both trying to do this to help people kind of brings us to the same level, same table.
exactly. We're on the same team.
Yeah.
We're on the same team. And I think that so much in this space right now, there's so much division of,
Yeah.
high fat, high protein, no protein. I had somebody ask me that question. So if I should do high fat, how about I just do no protein? And I'm like, no, like
We are definitely going to talk about that.
stop, like
We are
stop.
definitely going to talk about that.
But then for the mental health aspect, so many of my clients need fat.
Sure.
So there's just it depends on your goal. But I wanted to first start with this concept. And you said that you just recently did a post because I lost 120 pounds.
Yeah.
I was 260 pounds
Okay.
and at 40 years old. And I did not want to lose weight. I liked my body the way it was. And um, I'm from Southeast Missouri, and that's the way that all the women look like.
Right.
They all have big boobs, big butts, and big guts.
Okay.
I mean, we're just these big round balls.
Right. Right.
And we're nice and loving and a lot of padding for the children when the children come to curl up in our laps. We're just these big fluffy people.
Yeah.
And I liked my body. I liked the way I looked. Didn't realize that I had multiple sclerosis and debilitating mental illness
Hmm.
that was caused from all the inflammation in my body.
Right.
And so the side effect of me changing my eating to carnivore was that I lost 120 pounds. And so it was difficult for me. And now I see people coming into this space and all they want to do is lose weight.
Sure.
What has been your experience with that?
Yeah. If you're focused on losing weight, you'll always be focused on losing weight.
Hmm.
That's the simple fact of it. And what you do to lose that weight, you will always have to do that to lose the weight or do more of it.
Wow.
So pick what you're doing very carefully. If what you're doing is not sustainable, for instance, cardio, people, oh, I'm going to go get on the elliptical, I'm going to go run, I'm going to do this, whatever. And then, they're on there 30 minutes a day, they start losing some fat, then they're on there 45 minutes a day, then they're on there an hour a day, then they're on there for an hour and 15 minutes a day. And then they realize, okay, I'm doing this for an hour and 15 minutes every day and I'm not losing fat anymore. What do I need to do? Well, you need to do more of it because you're not doing the right thing. If you're not doing the right thing, eventually it's going to stop working for you. It's not sustainable. So identifying what the real problem is, the problem is not the body fat. Okay. I like to use the example of a bathroom. If you have a leak in your tub, then the focus of trying to lose body fat is like you going into your bathroom every morning, getting a mop and a bucket and mopping up the bathroom because there's water all over the floor, and then going about your day. And then every morning you go
Wow.
back in there and you mop it up, and then you go about your day. You until you fix the faucet or the leak or whatever it is that's draining that water all over your bathtub, you will never fix the problem.
Wow.
And that is what we talk about when we mean metabolic health. So fixing your metabolism is how you lose fat. When you get healthy, your body is going to become healthy. It's going to look healthy. It's going to act healthy. And that means you're going to lose body fat. There's so many aspects to what we mean when we talk about fixing your metabolism. That's everything from removing the food that's causing inflammation, removing the food that's causing your body to do things it doesn't want to do, okay, i.e. carbs and plants and seed oils. Those are the things. Improving your body's ability to do physical activity. So exercise is a key component in improving your metabolism. Eating more protein is a key component. Muscle is your metabolism. I used to say muscle drives your metabolism. Muscle is your metabolism. The more muscle you have, the more efficient your metabolic function is going to be, the healthier you're going to be. Everything about your quality of life starts with muscle. So if you're not moving your body and trying to develop more muscle mass, then you're missing the point. So I've said before, and I'll say it again probably a million times, nobody wakes up in the morning and decides out of the blue, I want to lose 50 pounds of fat. It's not something that you just kind of wake up and go, hey, you know what, this would be a nice thing to do this week. You know, it's what you have something in your life that has been bugging you every day, every month, every week, every year, for years and years, whether it's a physical limitation, an ailment, a medication, something in your life that is not allowing you to live the quality of life that you want to live for yourself. And you think it's because you're overweight. And that's just another symptom. Being overweight is another symptom on top of what is limiting you or keeping you from living your freedom. So weight loss is it's a red herring. Whenever I work with a client, anybody in my challenges or in my groups, I make it a point to specify at the very beginning of all the times I work with somebody, we are not going to talk about weight loss. We're not going to talk about fat loss. The only things and then this goes into a mindset thing as well. And carnivore minds, I know you're into a lot of the mind work and mind stuff. I love that. But the paradigm of changing your thought processes to losing weight versus increasing your physical ability. It's a whole different aspect, and it makes you look at the process very differently. When you think about losing weight, you think about restriction and deficit, and I can't have this, and it's all focusing on the things you're losing and the things what you're leaving behind and what you're cutting out, and I'm trying to lose, right? Words have power. So if you're focused on instead improving metabolic function, improving physical ability, increasing your physical freedom and independence, and making your body be able to do more and grow and thrive, then you have hope and you have expectation and you have a vision for the future, and you're not stuck where you are. And that's the difference. That's really what my message is all about, that we're not doing this to lose fat. We're not doing this to lose weight. We're doing this to live better.
I love that. So it's additive, not subtractive.
Exactly.
I love that. And it's so funny because I know you probably don't know a lot about my story, but I have autoimmune disease, multiple sclerosis. And I have found that I react to all of these other foods except for beef and beef fat. And
good for you.
I'm so grateful. Like I'm so grateful, but I don't see that as a sign of health. That's literally not a sign of health that I can eat two foods.
Right. Sure.
And so for me, that has been my goal, is to be healthy and be able to process
other things,
other foods.
Yeah.
You know, and
are you making progress in that?
Yes, actually.
Yay.
Yeah. I've been working, really trying to dial in what's going on in my blood. Because I just was in the whole mindset of eat meat and everything will be all right.
Sure.
Eat meat and fat and you're good. And it was. I resolved my multiple sclerosis. I haven't had any symptoms for 3+ years. I
Wow.
resolved my bipolar disorder. I haven't been on psych meds for 3.5 years. Never went to the psych ward. Um, since I went off the psych meds,
Right.
and you know, lost 120 pounds. Like, yes, everything is good, but that's not necessarily a sign of health. And I recently started wanting to improve and to increase my strength, and I joined CrossFit.
Woo!
And yeah, because I was just like, it's one thing just to exist, but I want to push the level. I want to see what I can do, how I can build muscle on this little tiny little frame.
Get it? Yes, I love it. Yeah,
Um,
because that's there's so many things we could talk about the statistics and the science and all this stuff about just what muscle does for you from a longevity and survivability perspective, right? The more muscle you have, the better your hormones function. The more muscle you have, the better your immune system functions. The more muscle you have, the shorter your hospital stays are. If you do have an injury and you have to go to the hospital, you're not in the hospital for as long. Your physical independence as you get older, all the markers of age, you can push those out longer the more muscle you have. I mean, there's so many different aspects to why we need muscle. But the most impactful to the way someone lives their life is what can you do? What are the things you don't have to say no to every day? And I think joining CrossFit's a great thing. A great thing. I recommend if you're not going to do my fitness program, then join a CrossFit gym. That's kind of how I look at it.
that's great. Well, I just knew that I wanted somebody to watch me
Yes.
in my form.
Yep.
And one thing that I love about CrossFit is that not only do you have the coach, but you have 15 other people who are more than happy to tell you what you're doing wrong. And it's a beautiful thing
Yeah.
because there's this group aspect of it, this cohesiveness of this, like, everybody helping everybody else.
Yep.
And I absolutely love it. And my favorite thing about it is that it's almost like walking into a bar
Yep.
where you walk out an hour later and you're like, what the heck just happened? What did I just do? You're like, did I really just do
Did
that?
I really just do that?
Did
Yeah,
I really just
absolutely.
dance on the table? Did I really just do 50 box jumps? Like, did I really just do that? And it's like the momentum takes over,
Yeah.
and all I have to do, my only job every morning, is to show up and walk in the
Bingo.
door.
Bingo. All the work is done for you, right?
That's all I do. I walk in the
Yep.
door, and then the momentum of everything else takes over. And I'm sure that's the same way with your coaching.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same. There's something about doing things with other people who are also doing things.
Yes.
It kind of pulls you along and keeps you going. It's a great thing. I'm so glad you're doing CrossFit. We can talk now. We can be friends. Get it? Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where I started. My fitness journey started with the CrossFit. When I was in my late 30s, I realized I was a fat slob, and that I wasn't happy, and I had a bunch of issues that I needed to fix. And CrossFit was step one for me. I joined a gym, was there for a while, loved it, fell in love with it. I kind of saw it early on. I felt like this might be my out from when retired from my career and and I was in IT for 20 plus years, and it ended up doing that. So I went from my job doing CrossFit, started coaching, ended up opening a gym, owned a CrossFit gym for about 5 years, sold it right before
Awesome.
COVID, and then went online. So I went virtual right at kind of after the whole lockdown thing. So 2021 is when I went virtual with everything. But yeah, I owned a CrossFit gym for several years, loved it. CrossFit is an amazing program that I think everybody should try.
Yeah, it is. It's really been, because I thought about it more on the physical aspect of it, but I'm recognizing now that it's more um almost spiritual
Yeah,
and emotional.
it's like going to church.
Yeah, the connection. Like, I literally do feel like I'm going to church.
Yeah.
Like, I have these, like, little conversations whenever we're stretching, or whenever we, like, partner up and we're waiting on the other person to go. just little conversations to literally like interact with humanity,
Yeah.
and it's so
Yep.
beautiful because all of my work is online.
Yeah.
All of my work
Yeah.
is coaching online. And so I don't have that human interaction and the feel of lifting heavy weights. Um, I know I recognize that it's something that I'm doing physical, but whenever I leave, I feel like I've worked out in the spiritual.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Well,
I
there's two reasons. There's two reasons for that. One is you're surrounding yourself with people who are lifting you up. So there's that community aspect and that social inner circle thing where, you surround yourself with the kind of people you want to be. So if you are, uh, this is a topic that I've been talking about recently as well, is the fixed mindset versus growth mindset. So if you're wanting to be someone who has the base belief in their self and their potential, then going to a CrossFit gym is going to catapult you to the stars because you're surrounded by other people who believe in themselves and their potential, and you're there to become better.
And they're all like business owners and
Yeah,
like hard workers. Like
yeah.
there's not one wuss there.
Right. And then the second part of it is you're doing something physical and you're facing a challenge.
Mm.
Facing a challenge is all mental. You're using your body and you're working your body, and you get that physical exhaustion and that physical stress and then the relief afterwards. But then there's a sense of accomplishment, of confidence, and pride that you get from doing something hard. And the more you do it, the more it feels good and the better you want to feel it and the more you want to feel it again. And it's such a great way to go.
It really is. And then I do the 5 a.m. class. And so I
You're one of
love,
those crazy people.
yeah. Um, and there's so many there. Like
Yeah.
I swear one day there were 20 people there. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like
Yep.
I really didn't give Southeast Missouri enough credit. Like I didn't think that there were 20 people in my town that would do this.
Right. Right.
And there are like, and they've been doing it for years.
Yep.
So I'm just late to the game. This is literally my third week this week.
Better late than never. Oh, you're that's prime. I wish I could be there to watch. It's so awesome.
Yeah, it's so fun. It's so fun. And my favorite is whenever because I wear all these like carnivore t-shirts and stuff.
Yep.
And whenever they find out, what I eat, and then they find out that I have multiple sclerosis,
Right.
and they're like, "You what? You have
Wait,
MS?"
what? Hold on a
Like,
second.
and I'm just like,
So actually,
"Yep."
now that we're talking about this, if anybody else is listening, if anybody's listening that's into CrossFit or that kind of style of exercise, I own and I have a website at ketocrossfit.com.
Oh,
So it's got a bunch of articles and videos and things like that about if anybody's interested in what is it like to be a keto carnivore and do CrossFit, then there's a bunch of information and resources there for people to take a look at.
awesome. I will put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's incredible. I'm gonna go check that out. That's awesome. So let's talk a little bit about practically implementing
Yeah.
and the numbers, because I think that people get caught up a lot in the numbers.
Yeah. You mentioned this earlier when we first started talking, the whole 80-20, high protein, no protein, low protein, high fat, low fat. Here's my take on the whole thing. There is not a single guideline that any influencer or doctor is going to give you that's going to solve your problem.
Agreed.
None. Because they're guidelines, number one, they're not meant for you. They're meant for a general population. It's a concept. It is not a solution. So what you need to do, whichever guideline you work on, okay, there's two things you need to understand. One, if you're doing something based off of ratios or percentages to your calories, you're doing it wrong. Okay. And this is the thing about this that I really want people to understand. We can't say on one hand that the food we take is not about calories. It's about hormones. It's about the quality of the food. It's about the source of the food. And it's about what our body does in response to the food. We can't have that conversation on one side And then on the other side, determine how much macros we're getting based on calories.
Okay.
Those two things don't make sense. You can't, it's discordant. Okay. So what we need to do is we need to understand that first concept is if the calories do play a role, and I'll talk about what I mean when I say that, but they are not everything and they're not the only thing. So if we're splitting up and trying to balance all of our macros within a set number of calories, there's a handful of things that are going to be off. Either you're going to be over or under nutritioned. You're gonna have less or more nutrition in one or other than you need, or you're going to have more in both or less in both. Because you're doing it off of a number that is technically arbitrary, and you don't know if it's the number you need to be working off of, because we can't accurately measure calories to begin with. So even if it was about calories, we don't know if the calories you're using are the right ones. Okay. So there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of variables that don't make sense. You can't add the two. And then the second thing is, if calories aren't this, if we're not doing things based off calories, if we're going to break this concept of ratios and percentages away from calories, then we also need to break this concept that your proteins and your fats rely on each other. Okay. We tend to, because we're trying to fit them in a percentage of a total number of calories, we tend to focus on them and use them as a slider. So if I drop my fat, I increase my protein. If I increase my protein, I drop my fat. Right? It's up and down this slider. That's not how your body works. There is zero mechanisms. There is absolutely no way. Your body has no idea. It doesn't have a process for comparing if you're getting fat in the right ratio to your protein. That's like going to the mechanic and saying, hey, I'm getting a tune-up. Could you do me a favor and give me 80% gas and 20% oil? And he's going to say, well, what do you mean? You need 17 gallons of gas and you need 6 quarts of oil. I don't know what that ratio is, but does the ratio really matter? You're giving your body what it needs of each. So instead of looking at it as a slider, I want everyone to start looking at their protein and their fat as knobs. And they work independently. They have absolutely nothing to do with each other.
Wow. That's crazy. That's hard for me because I literally only eat beef and fat.
Sure. And we can talk about, there's a difference in what I'm talking about and what you're taking in versus the source and the percentages and ratios of what you're eating. That has to be managed and manipulated based on what your body needs. Okay, we're not talking about the source of food. If you get a ribeye and it's 1-to-1, that's great. You know it's 1-to-1. That doesn't mean anything to your body. All your body knows is how much protein it's getting and how much fat it's getting. So two different conversations. I know sometimes people can get mixed up with that. What I'm talking about is when you're putting your macros together and determining what your body needs. So when we look at this, what I work with people and what I try to get people to understand is the ratio doesn't matter. What matters is giving your body the amount of fat that it needs and giving your body the amount of protein that it needs. So if we're trying to fix a health problem, it's very likely you need more fat, right? If you're metabolically healthy, I'm metabolically healthy. My focus is on getting the protein that I need to build muscle, and then I drop my fat a little bit because I'm trying to stay lean. Okay. Someone who's less worried about body composition and more worried about mental health or metabolic health or spinal cord injury or who knows, whatever other things people have going on, they may need more fat. But that doesn't mean they need to drop their protein. Okay. So I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Lehman. He's like Dr. Lehman, Dr. Lyon, Dr. Gabriel Lyon. So Dr. Lehman is like the world leading scientist on protein metabolism and how protein works in the body. And I just listened to a video that he did recently with Dr. Peter Attia, who's also in the space. He's got all kinds of great stuff. And he said, and this is, I was listening to this and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying this. This is freaking amazing. Because I've been saying this forever. Protein is an absolute, not a ratio. Your body needs protein and it needs a certain amount of protein, period, full stop. You need to find out what amount of protein your body needs because that, again, drives your metabolic function. If you don't have enough protein, your metabolism will crash. Okay? Starvation is not lack of fuel, it's lack of protein.
How do you advise people to find their perfect amount or their
Yeah,
range of protein?
good question. Good question. So I start people. I do a lot of body composition work. I'm also not a fan of just using body weight. I work with people. I'm a partner with InBody body composition scanners, and all my clients get one, and we look at all the different factors of body composition: skeletal muscle mass, body fat percentage, lean body mass, skeletal muscle um, percentage, body fat mass, pounds, like all the different things. And one of those things, lean body mass, the amount of your body weight that's not fat is the number that we go off of. So if you weigh 200 pounds and you're 25% body fat, then you have 150 pounds of lean mass, everything that's not fat. So your numbers for your protein is a 150 grams minimum. So it's 1 gram to 1 pound. And your fat grams are 1 gram to 1 pound maximum. And that's where I start everybody. So it's a 1 to 1 to 1. And that's kind of where we start. Now, is that a ratio? I just said let's not do ratios. Yes, that's a ratio. That's a starting point. From there, that's when we start playing with knobs.
Got it.
Right?
Got
So
it.
from there, we have a starting point. 99% of the time, most of the time, when I work with people, doing that 1 to 1 ratio is more protein than they're used to eating and less fat than they're used to eating. And I've had maybe 1 out of 100 clients who have not improved their muscle mass and decreased body fat just doing that without even needing to change knobs. Okay.
Mm.
So that is a great place to start for most people. Now, if you want to start doing different things, if you're doing this and let's say you have autoimmune or you have multiple sclerosis or you have something else that you're dealing with and higher fat has helped you heal, then what we do is we look for what I call your maximum energy threshold. And this is where you slowly bring up your fat. Every 3 to 4 weeks is when you check. So I don't want you to bring up your fat and then 3 days later say, oh no, I'm going higher. Oh no, like we're looking at trends. So you bring it up, right? You start at 150 grams, let's say, maybe you go to 160 and you stay at 160 for 3 weeks. And then you get on a body composition scan. Did I gain body fat this week, over those 3 weeks or 4 weeks? If you gained body fat, then you know somewhere between 150 and 160 is your maximum energy threshold that you don't want to go over. So you can stay at 150, maybe 155, somewhere in there, find a happy place where you're not gaining fat, okay? Because the sign of getting more fat than your body needs is when it's getting added to your body. So the idea, and this is another problem I have with the concept of high protein and high fat, is there's no actual definition. What does high fat mean? Higher fat than you've eaten before, higher than your protein, higher than your body needs, higher than, like, what does high fat mean? What does high protein mean? There's no definition for that. They're just things that people are throwing out there without really understanding what it means. So that's why I like maximum energy threshold. Your maximum energy threshold is the maximum amount of fuel that your body can use for optimal health before it can't do anything else with it. And that's what we're trying to find. So we keep taking it a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. If it starts getting to body fat, then we know we've reached that level. We kick it down a little bit and we can maintain, or you can drop a little bit more and you can start losing body fat if you want to, because it's all about fuel management. This is where the calorie concept comes in. It's all about the fuel management. Notice we're talking about fat, not protein.
Mm.
I don't talk about protein when I talk about fuel management and body composition and fat loss. That's all the fuel, fat and carbs. We manage that on one side. That's one knob. Okay. Then, so on there, we're trying to find the maximum amount that we can have before it spills over into fat. On the protein side, it's the exact opposite. Our protein threshold is the minimum amount that our body needs to perform and function.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a minimum number. So I start people at 1 to 1, 1 gram per pound of lean mass. That is usually more than what people are used to getting. So they have to work till they can get up there. So most people are under 100 grams a day. So it's like 150 grams a day. Are you kidding? There's no way I can get to that, right? I have some women who are like, I can't get to 90 grams a day because they've been doing 60 or 70. So we take our time and we work up to that. And There's some techniques we can talk about how do you slowly increase and get your body used to it. I can tell you one thing, without fail, everybody that starts eating more protein starts wanting more protein. They get to a point where they're like, this is not hard anymore. I need more all of the time, all of the time. So if you think eating 100 grams of protein is a challenge now, once you get to that, by the time you get to eating 100 grams of protein, you're going to be like, I get 120 now, and I don't even know how that happened. It's like, it happens. So it's a minimum. And I tell people all the time, if you're going to go over that, don't worry about it. It's a bonus. Right. So the protein number 1-to-1, 1 gram of protein per pound of lean mass is a good number for most people to start. And I don't really have anybody that it needs to change unless they need to go further and increase, maybe go to 1.25 or 1.5 if they're highly active, they're sports athletes, they have some specific goals around gaining lean mass or things like that. So for the average person, that number is a really good number to stay at. And be afraid of that much protein. It's not high protein. And this is that concept of what does high protein mean? Giving your body the protein that it needs is not high protein. It's adequate protein. High protein, when we start talking about 1.5 grams to 1 pound of lean mass, 2 grams per pound of lean mass, that's high protein. Okay, that's way beyond what the average person is going to need to be sustainable and have a good metabolism. And how do you know if you're having a good metabolism? Your energy is better. You can start doing more things. You recover after injury better. You don't get as sick. You're not as sore after workouts. Your sleep is better. Like there's a bunch of things that you can say, hey, your hair is growing back. Like all these things start happening. Your nails are getting stronger. Your skin clears up. All these things start happening because you're giving your body the building blocks and the tools that it needs. If you're dealing with any of those things, it's because you're starving yourself. That's where starvation comes from. And remember, the other aspect, just to throw this as an aside, when we're doing high fat versus when we're pitting fat against protein, we're going to lose out on one or the other. Right? If we prioritize protein at the expense of fat, then we are not going to have the fuel that we need. We're not going to have the things we need for healthy hormones. We're going to be missing out on things. Okay. We're not going to be able to fuel our brain properly. All of these things, right? If we pit fat and we prioritize fat against protein, then guess what we're really missing out on? We're missing out on protein itself, amino acids, but we're also missing out at the most nutrient dense options we have to eat. Dietary fat doesn't, people are going to freak out when I say this. Dietary fat doesn't have nutrition. All of the nutrition is in the muscle. All of the nutrition is in the organs. All of the nutrition is in the meat, not the fat. Okay. Now you need some of that fat to be present because you have fat soluble vitamins and all those sorts of things, but you don't get those nutrients at all. So it doesn't matter if you have fat or not. You don't get your nutrients at all if you cut that protein down. So again, all of this to say it's two knobs. It has nothing to do with calories. Stop using percentages, stop using ratios, and give your body what it needs. And no matter what that ratio ends up being for each individual person, as long as you're supplying what your body needs, i.e. giving it the nutrition that it needs, everyone's going to come up with a different ratio. My ratio could be 55, 45. Your ratio could be 40, 60. Someone else's ratio could be a decimal of this and a decimal of that. Like, the ratio doesn't mean anything because your body doesn't know the difference.
Okay, so I'm really practical.
Yeah.
So can we just get out the calculator and
sure,
just do a for instance?
Sure. Let's do it this way first. Let's do two ways. Let's do someone who's not actually tracking. Okay. How do we do this intuitively? Okay. And this goes to what we were talking about a little bit earlier. Well, the ratio of my food, like I'm eating fatty foods. So how do I know what's going to work and what's not? And it's a real simple thing. If you're eating intuitively, you're just like, you know what? I eat 2 ribeyes a day and 6 eggs. That's what I eat every day. Okay, well, great. So do that. You've got that. That's your tracking. For you, your tracking is just knowing what you eat. After 3 or 4 weeks of that, are you gaining fat? No, I'm not gaining fat. Okay. Then are you happy? Are you sustainable? Is it helping you? Are you seeing progress? Do you feel like you're starving? Are you content with your food? Yeah, all that's good. then you probably don't need to change anything. Are you feeling good in your workouts? Do you have good recovery? Like stuff like that. If you feel like maybe you want to do better in your physical performance, maybe you are sore all the time from your exercising. Maybe you're not sleeping well. Maybe you do have some hair issues. Then we want to increase your protein a little bit. So then maybe add some egg whites to your eggs. So you're adding protein, but no more fat. Maybe instead of just doing the ribeye, maybe throw in some shrimp in one of your meals, increase that protein amount, right? So we're playing around with our macros, but it's just by changing or adding some of the food sources in that have less fat, because we're not trying to add fat. We're happy with our fat intake. We have energy. Our body composition is good. All that stuff is good. I'm mentally clear. I'm feeling like I'm getting all the fuel that I need. I don't need to increase my fat, but I do need to increase my protein. So you add some leaner sources of meat. That's a great way to go. On the flip side of that, let's say you're good on the protein side. I eat 3 ribeyes a day. Okay, great. My protein is great, but I'm gaining some fat. Okay, maybe we need to go to 2 ribeyes a day and half a pound of salmon or a pound of salmon for dinner, right? So it's a leaner meat, not quite as much fat as a ribeye. And we can just switch that, drop that, keep the protein about the same, but drop the overall fat a little bit and then see how that works. Right. So that's really all we're talking about. It's manipulating and kind of playing around with how am I getting the 2 different things that I need and how do they kind of work with the food that I'm getting. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, just like turning the knobs and just like shifting it and then looking at the body's response
right
to that. And I think also a hard part for people is that they don't know what good feels like.
That's all. Yeah, for sure.
Like if you were to ask them, they'd be like, yeah, I'm okay, until they feel better and they're like, oh my
Oh my
gosh,
God. Yeah. Well,
like
and that's
this
a
is
great,
what good feels like.
right. And that's another reason why I love the body composition scans. I love being part of a fitness program that's going to help you track your performance. So if you're not tracking your performance, then you have no idea if you're actually getting better. So one of the ways to tell if you're getting enough protein is, are you getting stronger? Are you performing better? So if you're not participating in a fitness activity that tracks your performance and progressively challenges you, you don't know if you're getting better. So you have no way to gauge that. So that's another thing. That's one thing that's great about CrossFit is you're going to go in there and you're going to see things every couple of weeks, couple of months. You're going to say, let's try this again and see how you do this time. And you kind of get to see how you're getting better.
Yeah, yeah, and that's one thing I do like the app that they have there where you can log your results
Yep.
of what you do, and then you can look back,
Yep.
like the next
Absolutely.
time that workout
Which app
comes
do
in.
they use? They use SugarWOD?
Wodify.
Wodify? Okay.
But I think they're actually shifting to I think it is that one.
SugarWOD. Yeah.
Yeah, they said that
SugarWOD is way better.
yeah, that's what they said.
Tell them good job.
Yeah. That's what the owner told me. He was like, here's the app, but we're changing it. And
Good.
I think they
Okay.
did say because I remember it was sugar, and I was like,
Yeah.
what? Like,
Yeah.
why sugar?
Why? I don't know. I don't know why they named it that.
And it's so funny because uh they have like these big, like refrigerators with all these like sugary drinks and
Yep.
stuff,
Yep.
and everybody's all but like
Kill
they're
cliffs and all those. Yeah.
yeah, and they're talking about like pizza and like beer and like everything, and I'm just like sitting there going, oh, okay. Like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna shut up. Like, I'm not gonna say anything.
Yep. Well, it's funny because it's gonna take a while, but CrossFit from the corporate side of things, CrossFit HQ is really changing a lot about their focus and their marketing and where they're trying to take things. And hopefully the gym owners and the affiliate owners start picking up what is being sent out with the message. And keto is part of that message.
Awesome.
CrossFit has been having a lot of people on their CrossFit Health channel, doing podcasts, doing interviews, doing webinars with all sorts of people from the keto space, because I think they're starting to realize, wait, there is actually something here that makes sense in a lot of ways, So it's really cool to see. It's really cool to be part of both of those worlds
That's awesome.
and see them
And
come together.
then last, I would really like to talk about mindset
Sure.
and identity, because you said that that's something that you touch on, and obviously that's something that I feel is foundational to this
Yeah.
whole process.
Yeah. Yeah. I obviously didn't realize it when I was going through it. But looking back as I've grown in this journey, realizing what the process was when I first started making the changes and trying to improve my life, um, I was confronted. Quick story, long story short, my dog. I was at a beach. I was in my late 30s at the beach with my family. My daughter took a picture of me sitting in a chair. I saw the picture later on that day and was like, "Yeah, what the hell? No, no." I'm like, "There's no way. Like that can't be me." And it was a physical, visual reality check of what my life actually was, the reality of my life versus the image and the identity that I thought that I had, which wasn't, I had that identity. I had the identity of, I'm an ex-military guy. I was a sports athlete in high school. I can do anything. I can take on the world, blah, 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 blah. And then when I saw this picture, I was like, wait, something's not right here. Like this picture and this picture aren't the same person. And that's really what woke me up to the fact that something needed to change. And until someone is presented with that situation, they're not going to change. So if you're at that point where you're like, something has to change, what is it? Start thinking about what you have to be, and then we can talk about awareness, but you have to be honest with yourself and ask yourself, what is the reality of my life? And who do I want to be? What is the identity of the life that I want to live? So you have to start separating reality from identity, because chances are they're not the same. And that's what creates unhappiness.
Mm-hmm.
If you're living a life that's not what you think you're living and your expectations are here, but your reality is here, you're not going to be a very happy person, right? So when you start identifying and doing some inner work and spending some time with yourself and saying, okay, if this isn't my life, this is what I thought it was, it's not what it was, what do I really want my life to be? Okay. And this is some work that a lot of people don't know to take or aren't willing to take. You have to be honest with yourself. It's really weird, the concept of being embarrassed by yourself. But we get embarrassed. We get afraid of actually putting on paper the things that we really want in life,
And
because
we
we
run
feel
from
like we're
it.
not, and we run from because we feel like we're not worthy. We feel like we don't deserve it. We feel like it's wrong to want things. There's a whole bunch of limiting beliefs that go into putting down on paper what your dreams are. It's okay to dream. So if you're listening to this, sit down with yourself for 5 or 10 minutes, get a piece of paper, write down, if I could live any life I wanted to live, what would I do? What would I do in the morning? What would I wear? What would my health be? What would I do for activities? What would I eat for breakfast? Who would I spend my time with? Build an identity for yourself that is the kind of person, character. Am I a happy person? Am I a kind person? Am I an intellectual person? Do I read books? Do I watch, like, write all that stuff down. Create an identity for yourself that is the kind of person that you want to be, the kind of life that you want to live. And that's going to give you your roadmap for the actions that you need to take to get from where you are now to get there. Because now you have a picture of, okay, if this is the person I want to be, what are the things that person does every day? And now you can start looking at your own life and say, okay, that person gets up in the morning every day and spends 5 minutes stretching. Okay, I should probably start doing that if that's the kind of person I want to be. That person gets up every day and prepares their food for the day without worrying about, what am I going to do for a snack? Because they know they're giving themselves enough food every day at each meal to satiate themselves in between meals. So I guess I need to make sure I put enough food in my lunchbox today. Right. So, I mean, it just starts coloring all the different little decisions that you make that you struggle with now, because the decisions you're trying to make now aren't defined by who you're trying to be. They're defined against who you are now.
Mm.
And that person doesn't make those decisions. So we have to disconnect from who you are now and start trying to connect to who you want to be. And that's where the role of defining an identity kind of comes into the conversation. Hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like taking on a new persona.
Yeah. Another way to talk about it, and some people don't like it when I talk about this, but it's you are leaving an ex and you have a new boyfriend or a new girlfriend or new partner, right? So you've got this person you were dating before, you spent all your time with, you invested all this energy into, and you identify with that is your relationship. And that's very much like your relationship with yourself. I have this relationship with myself. This is what it's based on. These are the things that we do together. Well, I'm not dating that person. I don't want to date this person anymore. I'm breaking up with this person. I'm going to go and now I'm dating this person. So I need to understand what my interaction with this new relationship is going to be like. How do I make this relationship last and thrive and be sustainable and happy and all of the things that I want out of a relationship? If you're trying to build this relationship over here, you can't keep talking to the one over here.
Yeah.
You got to cut it off.
Yeah.
And that's where people get stuck. People like to go back to the next, like that 1 o'clock phone call. Hey, how you doing? You know?
Well, and it's kind of like building a new culture,
Yep.
like, because you get new traditions in the new relationship.
Yep.
Like we watch this series and we, my ex, we watched that series.
Right.
Like it's a new, like we eat at this restaurant. And with my ex, we used to eat at that restaurant. We do this on Saturdays. My ex, we used to do that on Saturdays. Like,
Right.
I really like that. I like that analogy because you're literally like creating a new culture.
Yeah. And then the other thing too is when you're really trying to break away at some point in time, and I think we've all been through this, at some point in time, you have to stop comparing what you're doing with the new person to with the ex. At some point in time, we have to get away from, well, I used to do this, and just thinking about, I'm going to focus on making this relationship as good as I can. And I don't even care what I used to do with my ex.
Yep.
I don't even think about it. I don't even think about them anymore. And that's what we want to try to get to.
Yeah. You were literally becoming a new person.
Yep.
Yep. And it's so funny because, going to CrossFit, I didn't know how I would adapt to it, but I had already been through so much with carnivore that I just do hard things. I just do them,
Love it. Yes.
And I was just like, okay, I've got to wake up at 4 to get my meditation in before, and then get out the door by 4:45 to get to the gym by 5. And so I'm like, okay. And then the second day, I think it was, my alarm went off, and it wasn't a choice. It was just like, this is what we do.
Yep.
This is what we do.
Yep.
And I walked into the gym on Wednesday, and one of the people were like, 3 days in a row. And I go, are you keeping tally on me? And she goes, yeah. She goes, usually new people don't go 3 days in a row. They'll do like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, or whatever. Right. And I was like, I'm different. Like, I'm just different. Like,
I love it. Yeah.
I'm not the normal person.
No, and it's good. If people need to understand that, it sounds hard to say, but your feelings don't matter.
They don't.
Just because you don't feel like doing something doesn't mean it doesn't need to get done. You don't feel like going to work, but you need that paycheck, so you go to work. Mm-hmm. It's the exact same thing. It's not a question. This is just going to happen.
Exactly. And the adaptation comes in once you get there. Right. Like I once I walk in the door, if I'm sick or if I'm, something's wrong, I'll just go through the motions. I'll just take it slow. But that's what we do. We go to CrossFit every morning. Yep. It's just what we do. That's our
Maintain
culture.
Maintain the habit and just what you do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, thank you so much. I have really enjoyed just digging into some of this stuff with you.
Good.
I didn't know that we would have so much to talk about, that we would have so much in common. Because I'm like, all about like love and the mental health, and everybody needs fat to, for autoimmune disease and everything. But we really did have a lot of things in common.
Absolutely. I think that, and that's the thing is no matter where you're getting your information, I want everybody to understand a lot of what I say can be considered controversial because I'm saying stop using calories, stop using percentages, stop using ratios. None of that matters. But at the core, no matter where you're getting your information from in this space, for the most part, there's some people out there that this probably doesn't hold to, but I think for the most case, everyone's trying to help people get better. So at the core, the end result of everybody's goal is help people improve their health, help people get enough nutrition, help people improve their quality of life. That's what we're all trying to do. So take that and understand that all the information is good if the context applies to you. And that's really where people get mixed up, is they start applying things that don't, they start trying to do things that don't apply to their individual context.
Absolutely. And where can people reach you?
On Instagram, you guys can find me at coach_Bronson_keto. And then everywhere else on the interwebs is Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness. So my website, my YouTube channel, my Facebook group, and my book. I have a book on Amazon, the Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness book. All that stuff is Ultimate Ketogenic Fitness. And you can find all my stuff there.
Awesome. Well, I will definitely put that in the show notes. And just thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
And I'm just so grateful to have somebody else in this space who just wants to help people.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. Take it easy. Thanks.